Hello, my name is Tom Thorpe, and I'm the Director of Web Strategy at University Marketing and Communications. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Terry Shelton, a web developer on our team and product manager for Storytelling Modules. In March of 2020, Terry shared at the Web Council meeting a little bit about Storytelling Modules, including how to get started using them. Today, we present an encore of that presentation in the hopes that it'll help you get started using our Storytelling Modules. Please enjoy this encore presentation, and at any time if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at uweb, that's UWEB, at uw.edu.
Okay, so, well, Jeff kind of already went over this, but what is this thing anyway? So this is a WordPress plugin that involves drag and drop modules with lots of different options in them. It allows you to produce media-rich stories, branded consistent components, using branded and consistent components. A little bit of why we built it. Tom/Jeff talked about, why we built it in broader terms, but a little bit more detail as to really why we built it. So the old way of doing things, we were reinventing the wheel with every single story we built. Every single story was hand-coded. Even though it was in WordPress, it wasn't actually in WordPress. So every single story was hand-coded. Copying and pasting only gets you so far. You still have to hand-code the entire story. And the dev time per story was an average of 3 weeks, full-time. That was my full-time job for one story for 3 weeks. And then this is no joke. Any edit to the story took a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes because of how our setup was. So if you wanted to change, this is our fantastic example that we always use. If you wanted to change an N dash to an M dash, it took you a minimum of 15 minutes, which is a really big deal. So I built 4 stories in 2019 this way: C lessons, policy in action, caring for every child, setting the pace. And then I also reviewed all of the previous stories that we had built. And this is a printout of all of them. I went through every single one of them with a fine-tooth comb and I cataloged all of the components. So we found a few inconsistencies. In 26 stories, there were 20 different H1 styles, 27 different H2 styles, 9 different H3 styles, 19 different image caption styles, and my favorite, 21 block quote styles. I created this really cool, I should have included, I have a GIF of this spreadsheet. It is color-coded and just made my brain super happy. That 270 lines, 26 columns of all of the different components in every single story. So yeah, we had a few inconsistencies. So, this idea was around before I even started a year ago. But after I cataloged all of the data from the previous stories, it became even clearer that we needed to do something. So after many meetings, many weeks, our amazing project manager, Jessica Singh, wrangled us, mostly me, to be fair, mostly me. She was wrangling us, and I started development on this plugin with the base components that I had found in all of the stories, or many of the stories. So I had started development on this in August of 2019, and I finished it in October because, nothing's ever finished. And we've been adding to it, testing it, tweaking it ever since then. We used an agile project management process, which was new to us. I know what a user story is now. The plugin was one long sprint that was also one release, but part of a bigger, larger project. I think we're on like sprint 19 now, and the plugin was like 7. So we're trucking right along on this. We have a backlog of items that we already know that we want to build into the plugin, and as soon as I've recovered from the Terry show here, the day of presentations, we'll start planning out sprints to build some more of these cool things that we're coming up with to add on to it. So a little bit about the technology behind it. We're using Advanced Custom Fields Pro, Bootstrap 4, and then we have these awesome branded components that were designed by the amazing Bradley Santos. Most of these are not new. but they may be streamlined or polished. And there are a limited number of options now. There's not 37 million different caption styles to choose from. So what's it really like to build a story now? Oh my gosh, it's so much easier. For one thing, you're building a story in the WordPress editor, something that we're all familiar using. Nobody's hand coding anything unless there's something extra. An editorial change or an image swap, first of all, I don't have to do it. It is not on me. So anybody that can get into WordPress can get in and make that change. They need to swap an image. Plus, it doesn't take 20 minutes. I mean, it could, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the minimum. And developing a story, it may take 3 to 5 hours instead of 3 to 5 weeks. I mean, that's a huge, huge difference. Now, don't get me wrong. A story is not completely created in 3 to 5 hours total. There's research, writing, design, photography, meetings. You know how much we all love meetings. Plus tweaks, edits, custom stuff. But the dev part, it's a huge difference about how much time it takes now versus what it was before. And the key thing really is that anyone can create a story. If you can use WordPress, you can create a story. And if you do want extras and you have those resources, use your dev time for that. Like if there's something that's not in the plugin and you think it would be really cool, use your dev time and your dev resources for that instead. And if you don't, your unit doesn't have those resources, I highly recommend that you sketch it out first. Whether that's in, if you're familiar with Photoshop or XD or just a piece of paper, just sketch it out. And you'll see later when I actually get to the demo, I promise it's coming. I have, for the story that I'm going to be building, I have a wireframe mockup for me to reference. So it helps. You don't have to do that, but it does help. So how we've used this so far, I built the Rising to the Challenge impactful story using the plugin, and we had some custom dev on top of that. And then Jeff Hendrickson built the Year in Focus, and we added some light dev to that, extra dev on that, and then filling the gaps. And those were homepage stories. And then Jeff also used the plugin to build the economic impact report page. I don't know if you've seen this yet. It is amazing. And it's a really great example of how you can use this plugin to create something really fantastic from something that may otherwise be not very interesting visually, or it's a report. But you can turn it into something that looks really appealing and something that you want to share. We're almost there, I promise. So I'm just reiterating the plugin requirements that you need to be using WordPress 4.9.11 or higher. We do recommend that you use our theme, but I've tested it in several other themes and it works just fine, works exactly as expected. And then any future theme we create, it will also work with that. I do have one note, and that is if you are currently using the free version of Advanced Custom Fields, you will need to deactivate it because there's a conflict because we're using Advanced Custom Fields Pro. If you're using Advanced Custom Fields Pro, don't worry about it. It'll just use that. But one note is that if you are using the free version of Advanced Custom Fields, you'll still be able to use it while it's deactivated. Because basically Advanced Custom Fields Pro is going to take over. So download it, use it, tell me what you built with it. And I really mean that. I have seen some really cool things that people have used that I never would have thought of. Like I built this thing, I had ideas for it, and I'm seeing really cool stuff being developed. So I would love to see what you do with it. And you can get it on GitHub. One thing that I will note is that you do need to be logged in with your UW Enterprise GitHub account in order to access it. And if you're not familiar with what this means, you can click that link when we get the slides out to the UW IT service catalog, and you can get that hooked up. And as Jeff mentioned, if you're on our hosting, just email us at uweb@uw.edu and we'll just turn it on for you. We really do want your feedback. We have already heard some really great ideas for the support components that we could add to the plugin. I've fixed a lot of bugs. I'm sure there are more. We hope that you use the plugin, like the plugin, and want to help us improve the plugin. Give us your feedback, good, bad, ugly. Tell me how terrible my code is. That's fine. Just, we really do want your feedback on this. Seriously though, we want this to be the best it can be for everyone that's using it. We're not, we're going to keep working on it. We're not just going to set it and forget it and it's going to gather dust. We're actually going to keep working on this. So if you, once we get through the demo, if you want to take a deeper look at it or want to ask some questions, we will be down the hall in the WordPress users group right after this at 10 a.m. in Hub 307. It's literally at the end of the hall on the same side. If you'd like to ask questions, we have our web strategy office hours at 11 in that same room. And then an even deeper dive at the Front End Technologies meeting on Tuesday, March 17th at 3 p.m. So this is what you came for. And apologies to Calvin Harris and Rihanna. Don't worry, I'm not going to play the song or sing it. So we're going to build a story. Hopefully we have enough time. Dubs is going to be our subject. And that is only because my cats are not exactly on brand. Sorry, kitties. Okay. You can see I've tested this out a few times already. So, okay, so for folks in the room, you can see I have a printout of this that I'm going to be using for reference because there are too many working parts to this to keep track of it all. So, okay, first thing we're going to do is name it. So the first thing we want to do is select a background image for the header. And then we're actually going to pick that image out of the media library. And we want to add that brand/pattern at the bottom for the text. I have all of these in here so that I can easily copy and paste. And if your work is anything like mine, you get Word documents all the time with things that you need to put into a website. So this is actually probably something you're familiar with. So for the heading style, I'm going to choose white text with a shadow. And we do have different options here. We can separate the heading itself from the intro, because it's entirely possible that your image will, the image that you're choosing, you can use a different style here because your image might require that. And so I didn't want it to be like, okay, you can only have white text for everything, or you can only have dark gray text for everything, because your image might not support that. And then for the, so this is header position on mobile. So when your window is scrunched down on mobile, there might actually be something really interesting on the bottom of your image that you don't want the text to be over. So you can choose if you want it to be at the top, the middle, or the bottom. So I'm going to choose the top because Dubs is along the bottom there. And I'm going to publish this. Do I need to zoom this in, or can you all see it? Okay. So this is totally a sneak peek at that, but so here is our heading. So far we've got Dubs there and he's super cute. So next step, we're going to add some copy. Grab that over here. And I pulled all this copy from stories about Dubs and his signing page. So it's almost all real. Because nobody likes to look at lorem ipsum. It's just, it doesn't have the same effect. Okay, so we've got the content section in, or the copy section in. Now we're going to add a YouTube video of Dubs. So this flexible media block has a lot of options in it. I'm going to make this window just a little bit bigger. You have a background image, you could put a background video, background color, and with all of those options, you can put text over it. And then we also have foreground image and foreground video. So that is something where you cannot put text over it. We're going to choose a foreground video because we want people to actually see Dubs. And I'm going to grab this link here. And there is an option here to overlap the previous section. So, you know, like we've had stories where we had a really large image and then a smaller image, and the smaller image was overlaid on the top one. So that's what that's for. But we don't want to do that because it'll cover up the text. And now we're going to add in a little separator. And now we're going to start with a heading. So this one, we're just going to make it a background color. And we're going to grab our brand purple, of course. Oops, not an image. This one's a background color. And the text we're going to use is Dubs can grow up to be anything he sets his mind to. Because Dubs is still a puppy. He can grow up to be anything. This is in my head, of course. You know, like Dubs isn't really going to. Especially when we get a little bit further along and you see what he could possibly become. So add a little bit more copy here. And of course, because I'm copying from Word, and we all know this experience, having to clean it up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get into the fun stuff. So we're going to add another heading. And this is where it starts to get super cute. So the heading text here is Dubs could be a scientist. And then we're going to add two-column layout and add an image on this side of Dubs being super, super cute in his goggles. So one thing I'd like to point out here is we have the alt text in here, and it's actually going to pull that in and use that correctly in the HTML. So whatever you've put in for the alt text, when we get in later to the captions, it actually uses that for the captions. So as long as all that information is associated with your image, it's going to use that in the actual story. And then we're going to add a quote that he could possibly say, because I love dogs that talk. And I just like to point out that I stole this from Dog Feelings Twitter account. And I do apologize to them for changing it and butchering it. But the first part of it, at least, is actually their, you know, because they're the expert. It's a dog that talks. So let's save this and take a look at what it looks like. So we've got copy. We've got a YouTube video, cute Dubs. We've got a heading with some more copy. It's starting to look like a real story, right? So Dubs could be a scientist. And there's his cute little image with his quote. Okay, let's keep going. Nice thing is we can make all these, we can minimize all these so it doesn't get super cluttered, or when it does get super cluttered, you can make it not cluttered. Oops. One too many. Okay, so let's add another copy block. And then let's add another heading. So we've got another image here that we're going to pull in. And one thing that on these images, I did have to treat them because, you know, not every image that you choose is necessarily going to look good behind text. So I did have to, like this one, for example, I had to make it lighter. Some of the other ones I had to make them darker. So you do have to be thoughtful about the images that you're choosing and how they might be represented on the actual screen. And so because this one is lighter, I'm going to choose a dark heading. Now I got too many windows going. We've never had that happen before, have we? So Dubs could be a business analyst. Oops, that was not what I wanted to select. You can see we have a lot of options here that we haven't even gotten to yet. So for this one, we'll do another quote block. And we're going to center that again so it looks the same as the other one. And then for this image, we're going to choose business Dubs. And then we'll take a look at how that looks. So this is what we just did before. So that's the heading, Dubs could be a scientist, and the 2-column layout, and then some copy. And then here's another heading, Dubs could be a business analyst, and another option here for that. And I'm watching the clock, and I'm realizing that we probably have some questions coming up. So I'm going to skip some of this, but I will show you the full thing if you want to see it. So I had some repeats, some more repeats here. So I'm just going to skip straight to the carousel because I know people are very excited to use carousels. So this carousel is built using Bootstrap's carousel. So it's pretty much like as accessible as we could find of a carousel. It's responsive. It does all the things it's supposed to do. And so the options that we have here, you can choose to turn off the captions. Well, of course, we would rather you don't. But there could be a situation where you do want to have them turned off. And we do have a couple options here for the styling for the captions. If it makes sense to add more at a later date, we will probably do that. But right now we have purple captions, of course, because purple. And then we have an option that is just dark gray on white background. And then we have options for, this can be a full width, like full height type carousel, or it could be a content width, so in line with your copy. So we're going to add a couple images here. And again, so we've got a caption already filled in here and alt text, and it's going to use this for the HTML. Okay, so I've got my images in here and I'm thinking, you know what, I really just, I think this needs to be in a different order. You can just drag and drop to change it. Okay, so let's save this and take a look at what it looks like. So there's Dubs. And down here at the bottom, it's blending in a little bit with the footer here, but we've got the captions down there along the bottom. Okay, and so we do have some thing in here, down here at the very bottom, because there's a lot going on here. Okay, so we have some options that we use in our stories that we thought might also be useful for you to use in your stories. And one of them is a publish date. All of our stories have to have a publish date. So if you do want to use this, it's really simple. You just say yes, and you type in the publish date. It's really simple, and it'll always put it at the bottom. You can also add a giving widget. This is like the footer of the page. And it's, if you've looked at our immersive stories, they've got the big image at the bottom. That's what this is. So I'm gonna set this up so you can see what it looks like. So we're gonna choose a background image. And because this is a darker image, we're going to choose light text styling. By default, what you care about can change the world is going to be in here because that is what we have on all of our stories. But as you can see, you can change it. So by default, that is going to be filled in all the time, but you can change it to whatever you want or need it to be. I'm going to skip down here. And you can see I have some light HTML in here. You can, in the text areas, you can use light HTML. I didn't point this out earlier, but in the copy blocks, it should, let's find one. This should look very familiar. If you're familiar with WordPress, it's just a normal WordPress editor. So you could actually put images in there. Anything you can do in a WordPress editor, you could do in that copy block. Okay, so back to the giving footer widget thing. So if you have a fund code, you can fill that in here and it will automatically do all the magic on the back end with the iframe to create this giving widget. We also have a thing called an appeal code. I don't know if anybody else uses that, but that's something that we have, that we use. So that is an option there. And then you may also notice this area down here, external resources. If you are building a story and you do want extra stuff, you can add an external style sheet and an external JavaScript file, and it will only load on this page. So it's specific to this story. And this is an admin only area. So if you're not an admin on the site, you won't even see this. But I'm assuming if you're an admin, you either are a developer or you have access to a developer that can take care of that for you. So you can customize to your heart's content. Oh, because I said there was a publish date. Let's say there's not. Okay, so let's take a look at what that giving footer looks like. So this should look familiar if you've seen that on our stories, and you can see it just pulls up the, it's got the fund that I put in there already. So all you have to know is that fund code, and it just takes care of the rest for you. Okay, so that's the story that we just built in like 10 minutes. So I was actually going to show you the full thing just because it's cute. So this is what I had built earlier. So the only thing that's really missing here is that Dubs could also be an engineer. And then I had a follow Dub's journey because I just love this photo of him as a teenager standing in front of his baby self with the same look on his face, and then, follow his tweets. So that's the storytelling plugin. Do you have any questions? And this is the part where I'll get nervous.
I have a microphone here that I can bring around so that our online audience can hear questions as well. So.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment of thank you, this looks amazing.
Thank you.
There's a thank you, this is amazing. Okay.
I'm glad you think so. I'm super excited for everyone to be able to use this. I cannot, like I said before, and I'm going to keep saying, I cannot wait to see what you create with this because I think it has a lot of potential. And, you can see I didn't even cover probably half the things that are available in this. So I am going to do that at the WordPress users group. So if you want to see all of the things it can do, stick around.
No, thank you. Again, like Kirsten said, super exciting. I was curious, is the social media something that can be pulled in?
So this is, I literally just put in the URL for Twitter, for his Twitter feed, and it just filled that in for me. You should be able to use, I will say, you should be able to use any shortcode that's in 2014. The 2014 theme you should be able to use in the plugin. And if you find one that you can't, then send us an email or put a bug report on GitHub and we'll fix it.
And one more question.
Yeah.
Can you clarify how the alt text works?
Okay, yeah, I
Captions
can
for
actually
HTML.
show you. So let me just pull up, zoom this in. Oh, maybe a little too much. Here. So the alt text that I had put in that image was Dubs growing up. So it's here in this alt text. So it's pulling it in from the image and taking care of all of that. So you don't have to do anything separate. It's, if you're putting it in the image, it's going to use it.
But then the captions.
So, oh, the captions. So let me show you that. And this is actually something that I can get into even more detail in the other, in the next one, where I can actually get into the code and show you what it looks like. But again, it's pulling in the, here's the alt text for that image, and then this is actually the caption. So it's using the caption, the Bootstrap caption for that.
The caption that's associated with the image in WordPress.
Yeah.
So you just fill that in with whatever's attached to the image. It'll pull that in.
Did that answer your question? Okay, good.
So in your immersive stories currently on the site, you have a lot of animation, scrolling library stuff. Plans to integrate that?
Poor time to take a drink, sorry. That is actually our very next sprint. So we have, we're going to research the best possible library to use, possibly multiple libraries, and plan out what we're going to incorporate in that. I can say for sure that we will. What we're going to incorporate, I'm not entirely sure. I can't answer that yet because we haven't done the research yet.
And if we wanted to do it now, we would just.
We could just pull something from the CDN, like a
Exactly.
library
Yep.
or something.
Mhm.
Great.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I'm going to add, this is definitely 100% Terry, but I do work some on this project with her. One thing to note, if we do add animations or features, we're making sure it's accessibility tested, usability tested, and that it's something that we think will have like longevity. So if we do add things, we think it's something we're going to be using for as long as humanly possible, rather than something we'll use on a one-off. If we have things we use on a one-off, we'll just add it in that extra style sheet situation. So just something to keep in mind with animations and things.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? Any questions online? Gosh, I guess I could have finished building the story.
Did you show the external style sheet?
I did not. I mean, it's just a style sheet. and literally all you put in the WordPress part is the URL to the style sheet. So it just pulls it in. Well, I guess, so how many of you are coming to the WordPress users group? Okay, a few people, excellent. Okay, well, we're cutting out a little bit early then. Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.